We live in an era where the most brutal ghosting doesn't involve silence. It involves perfect grammar. You send a text full of chaotic energy, overthought details, or maybe just a genuine piece of your day, and the reply comes back within 3 minutes. It has a subject. It has a predicate. It has a perfectly placed comma. But the exclamation marks are gone. The emojis have vanished, or worse, they've been replaced by that single, flat, yellow smiling face that feels more like a court order than a gesture of warmth. You stare at your screen, and you feel the temperature in the room drop. Nothing explicitly wrong was said. You can't even complain to your friends because on paper, they answered you. They answered you fast. But your gut knows. The lack of that tiny, slanted line with a dot underneath is the sound of a heavy wooden door clicking shut. It is the definitive proof that someone has stopped trying to make you feel safe in their digital space. We like to think that relationships end with screaming matches, blocked numbers, or long, dramatic paragraphs sent at 2 in the morning. That's a comforting lie we tell ourselves because conflict implies there is still passion left to burn. The truth is much colder. The real end is highly efficient, deeply respectful, and entirely automated. It is the transition from a shared language to a customer service desk. Think about how a connection actually breathes online. In the beginning, text messages are messy. They are chaotic, fragmented, and structurally disastrous. You send 5 texts in a row just to finish one thought. You abuse the exclamation mark because you are terrified that your tone will be misread. You use inside joke emojis that make absolutely no sense to an outsider. There is a frantic, beautiful desperation in trying to bridge the physical gap between 2 screens. You type at the speed of your pulse. You look at the little typing bubbles with a sense of anticipation that borders on nausea. In that phase, punctuation isn't about grammar, it's a life support system for emotional proximity. An exclamation mark means I am here, I am excited, and I want you to know I care about how this lands. It's an investment of energy. It's a tiny, digital tax you pay to keep the vibe alive. But energy is finite. When someone decides they no longer want to invest in the upkeep of your dynamic, they don't always leave the building. Sometimes, they just turn off the heating. They keep replying because ghosting takes a certain kind of malice that makes them look like the bad guy, and nobody wants to be the villain in their own story. So, they choose the bureaucratic exit. They give you the polite minimum. Watch the shift happen. It's a slow, deliberate deceleration of effort. The words remain the same, but the architecture changes. Good morning becomes good morning. The double question marks disappear. The typos vanish because they are no longer typing with the reckless haste of attraction, they are proofreading. They are treating your conversation like an email to a senior manager. Every sentence is balanced, safe, and entirely sterile. If you ask a question, they answer it directly, leaving no open threads for you to pull on. If you tell a joke, they acknowledge it with a literal text that says haha, but the letters feel like dry sand. They are giving you exactly what you asked for, which is the most effective way to ensure you never ask for anything again. It is a brilliant, passive-aggressive masterpiece of emotional distancing. They haven't blocked you. They haven't told you to leave them alone. If you confront them, they have total plausible deniability. What do you mean? I literally just replied to you. And they did. But they replied to the text, not to you. They answered the data, not the human being behind it. You are left holding a handful of perfectly structured sentences that feel as empty as an abandoned apartment. This is the point where the self-delusion kicks in. You tell yourself they are just busy. You tell yourself they are having a stressful week at work, or maybe they are just trying to be more mature with their phone usage. You scroll back through months of old chats, looking at the vibrant, messy, exclamation-heavy history you shared, trying to convince yourself that the person who typed "see you tonight" is the exact same person who just sent "sounds good." You analyze the timestamps. You notice they still reply within minutes, so you rationalize that if they wanted to cut you off, they would just ignore you. But deep down, you know that speed is just a habit, not an intention. It takes 0 effort to fire off a pre-programmed, grammatically correct acknowledgement when your phone vibrates in your hand. In fact, answering quickly is the fastest way to get the notification off their screen. It's a chore. It's clearing the inbox. They are treating your presence in their life like a task list that needs to be checked off before they can go back to what they actually want to do. The speed isn't a sign of urgency. It's a sign of a desire to get it over with. We are terrified of this realization because it forces us to confront the fact that we have become a burden to someone who used to seek us out. It's easier to fight an enemy than to sit in the quiet room of someone's indifference. When a text has no emotion, it has no friction. And when there is no friction, you realize you are slipping right out of their life without making a sound. There is no hook to hold on to, no misunderstanding to clear up, no argument to settle. How do you argue with a perfectly polite "okay, thanks"? You can't. You are completely disarmed by their civility. They have built a wall out of flawless etiquette, and every time you try to reach over it, your hand just slides off the smooth, polished marble of their neutrality. Eventually, the exhaustion sets in. You stop trying to match their old energy because looking at your own exclamation marks next to their cold periods makes you look desperate, even to yourself. You start mirroring them. You delete your own emojis. You review your sentences before hitting send, stripping away the warmth, matching their pace, adopting their tone. You become partners in a corporate simulation of what used to be a living, breathing connection. The transition is complete. You have successfully moved from their inner circle to their waiting room. You sit there, watching the screen, finally understanding that the hardest part of letting go isn't when they stop talking to you. It's when they keep talking, but the person you knew has already left the chat. The grammar is flawless. The connection is dead. They gave you all the correct words, but none of the actual voice.